Hi guys, it's Kelly Latavola here, and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some Altenew products. This is the Smiles and Hugs set, and then this fun new product, which is their watercolor brush markers. So these are comparable probably to your Zig Clean color markers or your Arteza watercolor markers. So just something fun and new. I am going to be doing a floral card because you know I love me some flowers, and they're super vibrant. Like the colors and the markers are super vibrant, and so I just couldn't not do flowers. Some things to note about these watercolor brush markers: they work just like a water brush. So when you get them, you open them up. There's like a plastic piece in there to keep them from squeezing, so like none of the liquid comes out. So you remove that plastic piece, put the brush back on, and then squeeze them for the ink to come out. So yeah, typically, I mean, it's just like a regular there's nothing, I guess, like fancy about it. All of the in this set, it's the Spring Garden set, so it's like a good rainbow mix of colors. I really like the colors that are in this set, and they match all of the Altenew inks. You know how Altenew's got that going on, everything's super matchy. It's like right up my alley. And then for the card, I'm just doing some very minimal masking. You can see I totally cheated with that mask. I didn't even cut the whole flower out. I didn't need to. I just needed the bottom of it and the side of it masked so that I could put some leaves in there, just so that I would have a focal point. I'm going to be pretty much just keeping the focal point to the bottom part of the card. I'm working on Canson Monteval watercolor paper, and I didn't realize, this is funny, how you can do something for so long. I've realized that the card looked kind of fat, kind of wide to me. But it's because I'm missing about a ½ inch on the bottom. It's not a full A2 sized card. It is 4¼ by 5. But I was already committed. Here, look, I'm even cheating with this mask over here on this side because it's not even the right part of the flower, but I figured it covered up enough of it for me to cheat and put this leaf here because it needed a little something to fill up that space. And then we're going to hop into the actual coloring. So I treated these the same way I would treat those other markers that I talked about, the Zigs, the Arteza ones, and I just scribbled on the paper because there was a couple of different things I wanted to try with it. I used Dusk, Sea Breeze, and what is their purple called? Midnight Violet. And so I just scribbled these on in the background because I knew I wanted the flowers to be like the bright pinkish orange, and so I thought a blue background would be very complementary to that, and the purple's just to add some interest, and also it's super like bright violet, and I really like that. So I'm using a number 8 round brush. I'm just laying down a line of clean water to kind of that the color can kind of flow out into. And then just wetting those areas. I'm trying not to overwork them because I want to see how well they blend out with water. This was honestly the first time that I had ever used them, and so there's a lot of like testing going on here. They did blend out super easy. They didn't run like total crazy like how Zigs do. Like you even think the word water at a Zig marker, and those things are off to the races already. These did require a little bit more water than that, but I don't mind that. I feel like that gives me a little bit more control. So just going through and painting around the flowers so that I have a good background going. And then one of the things that always drives me just crazy with the Zigs and with the Arteza markers is you can't go back in with the marker and add more shading. You cannot do it. And with these, you totally can. I was like so excited when I realized I could go back in with the background paper wet. So I don't know if it's just they have stronger pigments or what it is, but I could totally add in more color, which was really helpful. Especially since when you're painting around an object, there's no way you're getting as close as you would like to. So here I could go back in with the marker and just kind of pull the color to right up to that black line. Now I let the background dry, and then I wanted to see how they lifted up. So I'm just spattering on some clean water, and I'm blotting it off, they did pick up a little bit, not as much as some of the other mediums, definitely not as much as a Distress Ink or Distress Oxide, but there's definitely some bleaching going on there, and it's a whole lot easier to see in the darker colors, which it typically is for any medium that you're using. One thing that I did notice is like with a regular water brush, you can over prime these. So for the limeade color that I'm using here, I definitely had squeezed out too much of the ink, and then so when I took the cap off and I turned it upside down, quite a bit of it came out. That's one of the reasons why I prefer a paintbrush to a water brush typically, is because I feel like I have a little bit more control, but a lot of people use water brushes with a great deal of success. So I think that might just be a user error on my part, or like where I'm not patient enough for the water to get down to the bottom, or in this case, the ink. And then so I am, I just keep squeezing the thing, wanting more of it to come out. And then when it finally does come out, it's like a waterfall. So that's probably my own doing. One thing to like just coloring wise, you don't necessarily want to take your lighter color on top of your darker color, because you're going to end up with a leaf or a petal or whatever that is all one color. It's better if you want a lighter area. Like I wanted the tips of my leaves to be lighter, so I'm starting there and then I'm pulling my lighter color to my darker, which they're still going to mix and they're going to mingle and they're going to do all of these things. Like this neon green is gorgeous. I just love it. But they won't necessarily be just all one color. You'll still see some of that shading. Shading is another thing that drives me crazy with watercolor brush markers of any kind, because typically the colors are very vibrant and I love me some dimension. You guys know this. So usually what I end up doing is I will do the watercoloring for mostly just the background, and then I use my Copics to color my main image, or I will color the main image with these and then go back in with my gray Copic markers, or in this case I could even use the Altenew artist markers, and add in more shading. But this time I decided that I was going to commit and I was going to try to do it all with the markers. So here I wanted the flowers to be multicolored, so I'm using the it's Rubelite, I think, which is the really pretty pinkish red. And then I blended that out with the Autumn Blaze, which is the orange. And then I went back in to add some more shading with the dark red. And that did help a little bit. I'm blending all of it out with the warm sunshine color, so the yellow. Blending the yellow into the orange did take more work than the rest of it, but it wasn't a lot of work. Like I just had to go over it like a couple little scribbly circles a couple of times to get them to make friends. And that worked really well. As far as adding the shading to the center of the flower there, I pretty much just scribbled it on, guys. Like I'm not even going to try to pretend like I went through and tried to do each into one of those individual petals. I didn't. I scribbled on some color where I thought it would be the darkest. As long as I have some shadows and some highlights, nobody's going to realize that I didn't take the time to do each individual petal. Just not necessary. So after I did the first one, then I went ahead and did the second one off camera because I did the exact same thing. And then here's where things get a little bit interesting. So if you have any sort of color theory, actually Online Card Classes is doing just finished up a color theory class, which was by Debbie Hughes and was amazing. I have a video in that class. I was very blessed to ask, that they asked me to participate in that. But then you know that you can shade complementary colors with each other. So you can shade a red with a green. That is what I did here. Now for this flower, I took the green, which was the emerald. No, was it? No, it was the moss. Sorry, it was the moss. And I took it directly to the areas that I wanted to be the darkest. And now I'm going over it with the yellow because I thought that that would be the easiest way to blend it out. Going in there straight with the marker was a really bad idea. It put down far too much pigment, and it didn't look natural. So now I have to fix it, which is why I tell you guys to try different things and push out past your comfort zone, because not only will you learn what not to do, you'll also learn how to fix it. So I'm going back in with the red on top of it, which is going to kind of tone some of that green. And then I'm going to blend them all out again. So then the green, then the orange, then the yellow. And that did help some. It's still, the shading is still a little bit darker than I would have preferred it to be. And it looks really, like in the video, it looks like just really in your face. In real life, it's not that bad. I would encourage you to look at the photos, which this is part of a blog hop. So there is some chances to win if you are hopping along with Altenew. So for the next one, instead of taking the marker directly to the flower, I decided to use the acrylic block. And then I'm picking up the green with the red already. And I added shading that way. And that worked so much better. So much better. It was like it toned it instead of putting the green directly down into the flower petal. It did put down more of like a darker red or a toned red. So that I would recommend doing it that way. And then you can just scribble off your marker. Like it will pick up the green as like I'm dipping it in there, but the more the ink flows out of the pen, it'll clean it off. So you can just scribble it off and it won't damage your markers at all. So these ones I did, even though I added the shading differently, I still did go back in and blend them all out with the orange and the yellow, just like I did the other one. I was just so much happier with the shading on this one. It was a lot more subtle than the first one, which, you know, you live and you learn and move on from there. So just to touch on some things personally since my last video, I did call and complain. I had already called and complained when I told you guys the story. And they actually called me yesterday and said that they have switched maintenance companies, that they are no longer working with that maintenance company because they had quote unquote gotten creative with some photos for the jobs they said were closed. And so they must have been getting other complaints besides just mine. So there is a new company. That company has already contacted me to come out and spray for my spiders and fix some other issues that I have, including my carpet, which is still wrinkle free, but not seam free. I did spatter on some clean water just to create that texture on the petals, and then I'm adding some white dots just for fun because it's pretty. So new maintenance company, super excited about that. He actually called, he was supposed to come out today because it's Thursday, you know what I'm saying? And that didn't end up happening because he had an emergency water leak. And so he called me and was like, I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to hold up your day. I have this emergency water leak. I'm not sure what time it's going to be done. And I was like, it's okay. Like, I'm off tomorrow. You can, you know, if that works for you, you can come out tomorrow. And he was like, I really appreciate it. Like, I apologize. And I said, listen, dude, you called to tell me that you weren't coming, which already puts you ahead of the game for the rest of the maintenance men I've dealt with, because they didn't even call. They just didn't show up. So I am hopeful for this one. And hopefully he can get rid of my spiders, because I counted, and I have approximately 8 spider carcasses outside my back door. Like, they're just everywhere. I hate them so much. The other day, my son was getting, like, when I pick him up from school, I always ask him, do you want to check the mail or do you want me to? Because he thinks that's fun. And so he was like, I do. And when he pulled, there was like one little postcard in there. When he pulled it out, there was a spider in the mailbox on the postcard. He thought it was like the coolest thing since sliced bread. And I was like, drop that thing on the floor so I can murder it right now. Like, drop it on the ground. I will stomp on it, which I did. It's dead out by the mailbox. So I added a stem and some leaves because I felt like my flower was just floating there. I don't really like the way the leaves got added was weird, and then so I ended up like just drawing one in. I'm stamping the sentiment, which I completely love. It says, smile, happy looks good on you, which is true. So very true. The happy girls are the prettiest. Or boys. I do realize that there are some boys who watch my channel. And so here, because my my paper is shorter than it needs to be, I'm going to pop it up using some white fun foam, and then I'm going to put that over some black. My original intention was just to leave it as that, but you know I love to frame things in. I like things that have clean lines. I couldn't just leave it alone. It looked weird to me. So I ended up cutting a very small strip of silver glitter paper, and actually I'm putting the adhesive underneath the watercolor piece so I can slide it back and only have just a sliver of it showing, so that there's a little bit of glitter. I really like the black of the pop of the black at the bottom. That makes me totally happy. And then that is the whole card. So like I said, part of a blog hop. Link will be below to head over there and check that out. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.